Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. As some of you may know, I was the president of the Mississauga Arts Council, and I've worked for the Walt Disney Company, and I've been involved in amusements and other things. And so people that have got interesting, different creative careers is something I'm really interested in. And I came across this fascinating young lady who's a professional figure skater turned circus artist. Her name is Ali Hornsby, and she's from Mississauga. And her life and profession before the pandemic was all about traveling around the world with different sizes and shapes of shows, ranging from large-scale touring ice shows to smaller gig companies, skating and doing circus acts. Fascinating. Ali, how are you? Welcome to our show.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So, how did you get into this?
Oh man. Well, like most little Canadian girls, we get put into skating lessons when we're like 3 or 4 years old. So that's kind of how I started in skating. It continued into a competitive career. No, I didn't go to the Olympics, but I competed up until about the age of 18, and then auditioned for a show actually that used to happen out at Canada's Wonderland. There was an ice show out there for about 5 years, and I auditioned and got in. And ever since then, it's just been the next show and the next show and the next show. And I got really lucky and, ended up traveling the world for the last like 15 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What does it take to be a professional figure skater?
Like what's different than like what it takes to be a competitive figure skater? I mean, you still have to have the jumps and the spins that you would have to have for competition, but it's all about the performance side. It's about having the audience watch you and smile back.
How do you get the audience to watch you and smile back?
You perform to them. It's that, it's just that performance side of inviting them into the show. And so it's not just that they're watching this show, it's that they're a part of the show, they're a part of the fun, and you're not just smiling and faking it, you're bringing them into the show and yeah, just being, like I said, a part of the fun and the magic that is happening, that is an ice show.
So that's, it's interesting to have you describe it, because I have been exposed to a bunch of performers, and I do a lot of speaking of my own. My daughter was a competitive dancer, and you could sometimes quickly see the people that had what I used to call the it factor.
Yeah.
They just had it on stage. They had charisma.
Yes.
There was something about them. And you come across that way very quickly on video. What is it? What is the difference between just smiling versus smiling and welcoming them into the show?
I think there's just that there's something inside of like a performer who's truly meant to perform that is like their truest person. It's almost like people think, I hate to say that, people think that you are who you are when you're off the stage, but you're actually more yourself and you're more comfortable being on stage and performing for these people. And I don't know. Yeah, there's just something that performance it's inside of you, and it like fuels you, and it just gives you this energy and this love and excitement to like just see people react that like I get the best reaction from other people when I'm performing, rather than just talking to them and things like that. I can see their true happiness, and like, I don't know, it's just so pure.
Is this something that you're born with, or can you learn it or get trained for it?
I definitely think, that's hard to say, because I don't want to say that you have to be born with it and you can't do it if you don't have it. But I think it's something that it can be brought out in anybody, but it just depends on whether it gets brought out or not.
There was this one dancer at my daughter's dance studio who when you were looking at a whole dance troupe, his face was just a little higher. And for some reason, the light always shone on his face, and everyone else, I don't know whether their heads were down or they weren't as confident, or their smile wasn't as big, but it was as if the light always caught his face. And he had this thing. And when the whole dancers were dancing, he was the person you looked at for some reason. And so I described it as this it factor.
Mhm.
I actually had an interesting conversation with a priest who did a lot of speaking. He ended up being a cardinal. And he said that one of the mistakes a lot of people do is they look down, and they read, or they look at the people in the front rows of the audience. He said the key is to look at the people in the back couple of rows of the first level, not at the mezzanine, because if you look at the mezzanine, you're looking down your nose at people. But if you're looking at the front row, you're looking, they see your forehead. But you want to look at the last couple of rows of the ground floor. Is there any tricks like that you use?
I like to. It's hard to say. I try not to pay attention too much because I still get nervous. So I try not to really. It's hard to say. I like to think that I don't like to look at people directly, but at the same time, I can always tell when they're smiling. So maybe it's not so much that I concentrate on them. It's more that it's like a vibe. It's yeah, I think it's, but I like the idea of not looking down, not looking too high up, because it was the same when we used to perform in big, huge arenas. We were actually on the same level as the first level. So getting to really stare at them and having that be the correct height was the best, if you looked up too high, it was true. All you would see was up the performer's nose. So if you just kind of looked at that front audience, and it was great because the light was always shining on them as well. And you could see them smiling. And like I said, I think it's like that energy, not so much as like a visual, seeing someone, it's like feeling that energy. There's, I don't know, it sounds silly, but there's like a difference in the way
you feel energy from the crowd?
Yeah.
How?
Just like I said, the way that you can see these people are smiling and they're not even, it's like when you watch someone, I know a lot of people who, when they watch someone, they'll smile and not even notice that they're smiling because they're enjoying it. And if you watch someone who's very proud and who stands up really tall, like the boy you're talking about, you tend to stand up very proud in the same sense. So when you see these people who don't even realize the facial features that they're making. So when they're smiling, it's just this like pure smile. That's just kind of how I think.
We're chatting with Ali Hornsby, who is a figure skater who's traveled the world with ice shows, and she's also a circus performer. We're going to take a break and come back and ask her how she made this transition and what she's doing in that regard. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. Having an interesting conversation with someone who's, I think, living their life. Like what a dream. She's been traveling the world as a professional figure skater with a whole bunch of different ice shows. And then she got into being a circus artist. And it's just amazing. So, tell us a little bit, Ali Hornsby from Mississauga, how did you go from being a figure skater to a circus artist?
I like to think I got lucky. I first started Circus on an ice show. I was hired by a company that performs out of Europe called Holiday on Ice. And on their show, they have tons of different types of acts. And one of them was an aerialist, a couple from Las Vegas. And they didn't have any understudies. And so they kind of did a little within the casting for understudies. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. I want to try. And I tried it and I was just addicted. And it just continued. And there's a lot of shows, a lot of skating shows that have aerials in them just to kind of add that, just another layer to skating.
So a skate going straight into an aerial.
Well, see, that's the thing, is a lot of the shows don't have the two really mixed. They'll have aerialists hired separately and skaters doing the skating. And
you're doing both.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. is putting the two together.
Fantastic. And so tell us some of the shows that you've been in where you've been doing this.
So there was a show, one of the shows that I did called Ice Age on Ice. It was really fun. It was actually the movies Ice Age with, the mammoth and the scrat, the squirrel and everything. And so we had these massive puppets that were all the characters, and I got to do a little bit of that. We got really lucky and traveled throughout most of the world. And then recently I've really done more circus. And I actually, before the pandemic, one of the last things I did was I went to California and performed as a inline figure skater, hoop aerialist.
An inline figure skater hoop aerialist. Tell us about that.
So it's one of the most popular things that's come out of this pandemic for figure skaters has been inline figure skating, because we don't have the opportunity to be on the ice all the time when rinks are closed down and everything. They are inline figure skates, so they actually have a rubber toe pick so that we can jump and spin and do that. So I was able to use these inline skates on the church's stage, and then have the hoop come down, and I joined the two, and yeah.
How does a rubber toe pick work?
Well, it's supposed to be, a replacement for a metal toe pick.
Yeah.
But it's basically there so that it's like a stopper. And it
works so that you can actually.
Yeah, it's definitely not as easy. And it's not as nice to fall on concrete than it is to fall on ice. And but it's fun, and it's a different type of skating. It's just it's nice to add to the repertoire of things I can, or at least I attempt to do.
What kind of muscles do you have to be able to stay up in the sky in a hoop, in an aerial?
Ooh, a lot. I train a lot. I I train a lot. I don't look big, I don't think, but I would say I'm pretty strong, much stronger than I was when I was just a figure skater. I've had to put on upper body muscle since.
And so tell us, one is with these ribbons, then you've got the hoops.
Yep.
Trapeze as well?
Yes. So I do flying trapeze, which is the very, very big, I'm trying to paint a picture here. It's the big thing with the net underneath.
Yep.
Because it's the type of performance that tends to, you either catch or you don't. And when you don't, you need the net there to save you. So that's flying trapeze. And
now the flying trapeze, is that with a partner that someone's grabbing you, or?
Yeah, so flying trapeze is where there's a catcher in one trapeze, and then you do the trick in the other trapeze, and you fly across doing, a pretty split or some flips, and the catcher catches you, and then he throws you right back onto the same trapeze bar, and you swing back, and that is the trick.
Fantastic. And these ribbons where you're climbing right up to the ceiling, and
yes.
And then I've seen them where you get like wrapped up around your stomach and you let it go and you go all the way down to the floor.
Yeah. So those are silks and rope. Silks are made of a lycra type fabric, so they're a bit stretchy. And they're usually two pieces. You climb up, you wrap yourself and do drops, like you said. And then rope is very similar, where it's just one long rope that you kind of do the same thing. You tie yourself up in and then drop. Drop within your silk, not to the floor.
Right. And so tell us about some of the circuses that you've been with.
So a lot of the circuses that I've performed with are actually local circuses. There's a company that's out in Lakeshore, out down on Lakeshore in Mississauga, called A2 or A squared D squared. They're a circus company. They're a school, but they're also a performing company. So I perform, and we do, before the pandemic, we would do weddings and business meetings and business events, city events, just kind of anything you can think of. Anything you could think of there being a circus artist at. Even places you wouldn't think there'd be a circus artist at, we would do.
So tell us a little bit, you said that you've had to increase your upper body. So you're doing that with weights, I presume?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is aerial specific training. So hanging from a trapeze bar, we do pull-ups, push-ups, a lot of, I train handstands a lot, and I don't really perform handstands because I don't trust myself overly to be able to hold something like that in a show. But the training builds muscle like crazy. Like if anyone wants a really good, awesome workout, full body, play with handstands.
Really? Just do a handstand?
Yeah. I mean, you can do them on the wall.
And you're just lifting your own weight, I guess, is what you're saying. And
basically. Yeah.
And so you've also got, huge flexibility, and you're bending your back. How do you, what do you do to train your flexibility?
So I train at the moment during the pandemic, I train a lot at home. Before the pandemic, I was, for the last 2 years or so, I was spending a lot of time out in Montreal. I found a coach there who, would also put me through flexibility training, strength training. And we got very intense on the contortion type training, which is, like you said, like the bending back and toe to forehead type handstands and different things like that.
That can be good for your back. Is it actually okay?
It's funny because I will often complain that my back hurts, and people will say, stop doing that. But it's actually the opposite. My back feels better on days after doing a lot of that. So I've got the type of body that if I don't move it enough, it complains more than it complains when I do a lot.
What's a toe climb to the top?
So a toe climb on a rope is where you actually climb by using your big toe and whatever the toe beside your big toe is called. You actually squeeze the rope between those toes and lift it up as you climb. So I really like that. It's a bit weird, but for some reason it's the easiest way now to get to the top of the rope.
Really? Yeah. Unbelievable. I've never even heard of that.
All the other ones are like muscular ways, you have to use muscle, and when I'm lazy, I toe climb on the rope.
Do you usually have substantial makeup on when you're performing?
Yes. And that's actually something I really miss from performing. We were really lucky this one time where we went to Montreal, and it was a skating show that I was doing. And there was this girl there who was she did airbrush makeup. And so a lot of she turned me into some woodlands creature, and it was just, it was phenomenal. But yeah, no, our circus makeup is, I would say it takes about, an hour to do, if not more. Now that we're probably a little out of practice with the pandemic, I think it'll probably take more than an hour. But yeah, lots of sparkles, colors, different things depending on what costume you're wearing. But
do you put your own makeup on, or do you have makeup artists that will come in?
We do our own makeup almost always. Like I said, there was that one time where we went to a skating show and there was someone there doing the airbrush. But that was probably one of the only times that's happened for smaller shows. For bigger shows, what will happen is you actually have someone design the makeup for the show most often. And then they'll say, this is what it should be every day. And you have to learn how to do it yourself and replicate that every day.
You post this quote, anything that gets your heart racing is probably worth doing. Why do you say that?
I just think life is meant to be experienced in all those scary moments. I've had so many times in my life where I've been like, should I? And I kind of feel like if I have to question myself, I should probably try. Obviously taking into, safety. But if it's one of those things that makes you a little nervous, I feel like that's a good thing. If you're safe in life all the time, you're missing out on a lot of really cool experiences, I think.
Well, there's another line that's comparable to that. Something about a ship was never made to stay in harbor.
Exactly. Well, think of all the things that our body can do. And if we don't ever kind of push that limit of what else could it do, then I just think our body never gets, like I said, your body never really gets to sail the ocean like that boat.
When you were growing up, did you ever dream of being a circus performer?
No, I definitely always watched Circus and thought, oh, wow, that is so cool. But I didn't ever think it was something I could get myself into. I thought because I don't have the gymnastics background, and I mean, I don't even really have a very good gymnastics background at all. I remember not really continuing in gymnastics as a young girl because I couldn't do a proper cartwheel. So the fact that I'm doing anything of what I'm doing right now surprises me. But no, I think until someone really gave me the opportunity when I was on tour and said, hey, try this, I didn't even think it was something I would be capable of doing.
So did you do gymnastics when you were growing up?
Like I said, my extent was the three things I remember was I did gymnastics as a little girl. My mom put me in, or what did I get put in? I got put in soccer. I got put in gymnastics. I got put in swimming because we have a pool. So my parents wanted us to be able to swim. And I was, gymnastics, figure skating, and soccer. Figure skating, I fell a lot to the point where I wasn't allowed to wear a skirt yet because I needed to wear jeans because I would always come home with a wet bum. So I wasn't allowed to wear a skirt until I stopped being called the Zamboni by all the coaches. In gymnastics, I couldn't really do a cartwheel or a somersault very well. So that just didn't look like it was going to be my thing. And soccer, I was more interested in picking up the grass and dirt off the ground. So my parents took me out of that.
What do your parents think about you being a circus performer?
Oh, I think they're okay with it.
You hesitated.
Yes, it's not that I don't think that they are. It's that it's not an easy life, especially during this pandemic. It definitely shows that it's the type of job that can it's fickle. No matter how hard you work, it can you're not always promised work. But they're proud, which I know. I can tell. Like my dad is very much send me that cool video so I can show my friends. And my mom's a figure skating mom. She still really loves the stuff that I do on ice. That's kind of her favorite thing. She's a little bit more with the circus. I think a little bit more afraid of like me falling.
Well, doing the what is it called? The giant trapeze?
Yes.
I can completely understand it.
Yeah. And she's I've had my fair share of injuries, so I can understand where she's coming from.
Do you find yourself doing circus acts wherever you are?
Yes.
Like at the local river?
Like at the local river, yes. It's very hard when you find something that's you're able to hang off of. It's very hard not to hang off of it because you can. And it's very hard to go to like a cool place and not do a handstand now that you can do a handstand.
We're chatting tonight with Ali Hornsby, who is a figure skater, professional figure skater who traveled the world with a bunch of different ice shows and then got into circus acts and some of the times doing the figure skating and the aerial circus acts at the same time in the same performance. Fascinating. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Ali in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're having an interesting conversation tonight with Ali Hornsby, who is a professional figure skater. She's traveled the world doing figure skating shows, and then she got into being an aerialist and a circus performer. And it's kind of interesting. And watching some of her videos on Instagram and elsewhere, it's amazing, Ali, what you do. And you know, this climbing the rope with just your big toe and the next toe. Like that's amazing. What's your favorite thing to do, either on the ice or in the sky?
Ooh, that's a tough question. When I go skating, I think my favorite thing at the moment would be spinning, just doing the spins. I don't know. It's just my thing.
More than a jump.
Yeah, there's less chance of falling on a spin.
I've always wondered, when you do the spin, how do you not get dizzy? Do you look at like the same spot all the time, or what is this?
Good question. I don't look at anything. It's very interesting because there's a way that once you get used to spinning, you almost turn off your vision. There's something to be said for training a spin. Spins can be trained. But a skating spin, you don't actually look at anything. If you were to spot like a dancer, like ballet dancers, when they spot, that is what helps them not get dizzy. We spin too fast to be able to spot. So you actually kind of have to turn off the vision, or else, because if you tried to concentrate on something, you definitely fall over.
You said that your mantra is to find comfort in discomfort.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I learned that from a friend. I actually lived in the Dominican Republic for about 8 months, teaching flying trapeze at a hotel out there. And they had a yoga class, and a friend of mine taught the yoga class. And I remember being in an emotional place and her saying, you know, we were in a very uncomfortable position. We were sitting on our feet in some weird way. And she said, find comfort in your discomfort. And I was like, wow, that can be used for both an emotional sense. It's, you know, in this pandemic, we're all really uncomfortable, but you have to somehow find comfort in that and just be okay with where you're at. But also physically, instead of fighting that pain that you're feeling, it's almost just kind of being okay with it. And yeah, I think in circus that comes in a lot, because wrapping yourself tightly in a rope and rolling around on a big metal bar can be really painful at times. And you just have to be okay with it.
You also said that you take pride in taking the road less traveled.
Yes.
Why? You just want to be different? You want to be unique?
I mean, it's funny that you say that, because no one really, I do. For the longest time I didn't. Everyone kind of wants to fit in and, you know, be with everyone else. But I'm starting to realize, I have realized over the years, that it's more fun. And you experience so much more. It's kind of that same thing that I was talking about with trying things that are uncomfortable, or trying stuff outside of your comfort zone. It's you're going to experience so much more if you don't go down the road that has all the answers. I've continuously kind of gone down that road that I don't know what's going to be down there, the harder one.
You say that you're interested in mental health. Why mental health is a social cause that you're interested in?
Mental health has always affected me. I don't know, and I don't want to say it's something that only affects entertainers or affects them more, or athletes, because I think everyone goes through mental health moments in their life. And as a young skater, I definitely had my fair share when it comes to depression and eating disorders or body dysmorphia. When you're young, there's a lot of pressure put on you when you're a young skater, to look a certain way, to be able to jump higher. So you want to weigh less and look, like I said, look a certain way, because figure skating is a sport, but it's also its own art form. So you get judged on your technical and your artistic. And so, yeah, I think it's very important. I think mental health is very, very, very important.
You don't seem to be, you don't come across as the type of person that would have issues with anxiety or depression or mental health.
I get told that a lot. And I think I think that's something that we all have to kind of remember, is that there's a lot of people out there that do experience anxiety and depression and tons of different types of mental health, but on the outside they look totally fine. And that's why it's something I think we really all need to talk about, because it's not something where, oh, I got this terrible cut and it hurts my arm and you can see it, so I'm in pain. It's internal injuries that we can sometimes, as performers especially, are really good at kind of covering up and, toughing it out.
Is it hard traveling all the time? Is it difficult to make and keep relationships?
Yes. I have, yeah, it's hard to travel. It's, and by relationships, do you mean romantic relationships or friendships? Friendships, super easy to keep now, obviously, depending on the person. But with Zoom and Facebook and Instagram and all the different ways to keep in touch with your friends, I have friends all over the world. I joined in a baby shower for a friend of mine who lives in New Zealand, who is Russian, like a couple weeks ago. So on that hand, it's really great, but I miss them. I want to be there for things like, a real baby shower. Relationships, though, yes, difficult. It's difficult to find someone who truly understands the life that I lead.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to them?
I haven't dated in a while, to be honest, more or less because of that, just because it's getting into the whole, I don't know how long I'm going to be in the country for, can get exhausting. But most of the relationships that I have had have been with people I've met while traveling. So they tend to be people very similar to myself who are also a bit nomadic, and it works until it doesn't.
On an anti-bullying day, you said, remember, strong people stand up for themselves, but the strongest people stand up for others. Stop bullying, spread love.
Yep.
Why are you passionate about anti-bullying?
I was bullied as a kid. It's not fun.
Why were you bullied as a kid?
Probably because I am a bit different. And that's also a bit of the mental health that comes in. High school was not an easy time for me. It's sad because kids can be mean. And it's I don't have any answers for how to, get that to stop, but I do just hope that it's nice to know that kids these days are talking about it. It wasn't overly talked about when I was younger, I think.
Now, in some of your posts, you're mentioning what you're wearing. Are you able to make any money with your sort of social influencing?
No, not yet. It's just a friend of mine who has a circus uh, apparel company. She makes local. She's a Toronto company, and she has a little place out in Toronto that she makes all of her things, and all local circus artists are constantly covered in her clothes. So it's just a friend trying to help small business, trying to get her out there. You know, we'll get little discounts here and there, but she's a small business, so I like to, if my money, if I don't get a discount and my money goes there, I'm happy with that because it's going to someone I know deserves it.
If a young girl or guy came to you and said they wanted to become a Olympic figure skater or professional figure skater, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I mean, I would say first you got to start.
And fall
If
down a
you
lot?
I fall down all the time. Yes, I'm very good at falling. I think there actually is a way to fall. I have definitely learned that. I think it's going to sound really funny, but I think everyone should learn how to fall.
Yep.
Because then you learn your body very well when you're trying to save it from injury.
What does push through your shoulders mean?
In handstands, it's almost like if you were sitting, or sorry, if you were standing and the ceiling was, say, if you were standing up and your hands were reaching straight up in the air and the palms of your hands could touch the ceiling, and then the ceiling started to kind of push down on you, and the only way you could push that ceiling away was to, because it's the same height as you, so you actually have to like push past it. You have to push through your shoulder blades and have your shoulder blades go up even higher. It's very hard to explain, and that's why in handstands it's taken me about 5 or 6 years to actually figure out how to do it.
Cool. That's fascinating. So you would tell them to, number one, don't be afraid of failure and falling.
Yes. Yeah.
Push through the shoulders or whatever other technical things you'd have to recommend to them. What else?
Figure skaters that wanted to be professionals or Olympics.
Yeah.
I would definitely tell them to work. Oh, it's hard to say. I want to say work really hard, because I would say to my past self to work harder.
Really?
But at the same, yeah,
But it sounds like you work very hard, so you have to work even harder.
I feel like when I was a kid, I allowed, it's almost like I allowed my talent to, I don't want to say go to waste, but I didn't, I think I definitely could have been better in skating if I'd, maybe I don't want to say try harder or train harder. It's just too bad, because there's no way of knowing that in the future this is going to be really what you want to stick with. You're a kid and you just want to, you know, skate, but you also want to go to parties with your friends, and skating gets in the way of that sometimes. So
the lockdown's been tough on a lot of people, and I've interviewed a bunch of performing artists, some that have found it as an opportunity to be really creative and write new things and practice new things. And it sounds like you found it as an opportunity to work on your flexibility and your strength. Has it ended up being okay? A positive, a negative? What?
Obviously, the pandemic is negative in a bunch of ways, but yes, you're right. I have had tons of time to really concentrate on my flexibility and mainly my handstand practice. My strength has, I would say, at least gotten better, not crazy amounts strength wise, because I don't have as much opportunity these days to train on the rope or on the hoop or actually go skating. But the time that I've had at home to do handstands and really, really, really work on my flexibility on my own has been has been a positive. Absolutely. I've come out of it stronger. And yeah, a lot of injuries that I maybe started with in the pandemic, I am not taking with me through the pandemic, thankfully, because I've had time to work on healing those as well.
How do you stay true to yourself? You say stay
Yeah.
true to yourself. An original is worth more than a copy. How do you stay true to yourself?
It's hard. I want to say it's very hard. And that was a little bit of a reminder to myself to stay true to myself. I find these days with Instagram and social media, it's very easy to look at other people and compare yourself and wish you could do that. And, oh, well, mine looks different and things like that. It's just very easy to compare yourself. And you have to remember that everyone on social media is posting their best. It's their filters. They're not often are they showing you the falls or the mess ups or how long it took them to get to being that like perfect shape you see. So I think I do try and stay true to myself. I end up actually posting a lot of mess ups because they make me laugh. And I like to be able to laugh at myself. And that to me is staying true and knowing that I may not be at that part yet that that person is at online, say, but if I continue training and working through what it's going to take me to get there, I can get to that place too, or a different place or a better place, whatever place is meant for me. And it might look a little different, but that's okay because that's me.
You said that if you could speak to your younger self, you would tell your younger self to work harder.
I think it's hard.
If you could imagine being 50, what would the 50-year-old Ali Hornsby say to the current Ali Hornsby?
Good question. I would really hope that she would say, go for it and just continue going for it. I guess my like big dream is to work on a big circus show, like Cirque du Soleil. They've got skating now. Not right now because pandemic, we're all on pause, but that's my goal. And little, bits of me keep saying, maybe now, like, when are you going to stop? How long are you going to do this for? And there's just part of me that's like, no, you're not done. You're not done. You're not done. And I hope that my 50-year-old self is like, I hope my 50-year-old self is like, good. I'm glad you kept going. Don't change anything. And that's why I'm just going to keep going because I don't want to give up until I know that no, I just don't want to give up. I don't want to give up. I'm just going to keep going.
When you're 100 and something and you pass away, what's someone going to say at your eulogy about what your legacy was?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I've never thought about that before. I would hope that they do say that she was true to herself and she loved her family and she loved her friends and yeah, just that, she did what she loved. She saw the world. She met tons of people.
And she joined the circus.
And she joined the circus and she enjoyed her long career in the circus arts.
Ali Hornsby, yeah. You're absolutely adorable. And you've got a inspirational story. And I look forward to seeing you in Cirque du Soleil or in some figure skating show or circus act live rather than just on Instagram because you've got, I think, a great talent. And I think you've got the it factor. You come across so authentically. You come across so with such charisma. And you come across as a real person, not a copy. You come across as a true self. So all the best. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to follow your career with a great deal of interest. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate that so much.
That's our show for tonight. Ali Hornsby from Meadowvale, Mississauga. I think this is someone that we got to keep our eyes on. Ali, if people want to keep up on your progress, what's the best way? Your Instagram?
I would say my Instagram for sure. It's
And what's the tag?
The Instagram is Ali Hornsby 73, and that's ALLY.
Ali Hornsby 73. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.